If you're struggling with managing your students' behavior in class, then a good way to deal with it is to establish clear classroom rules and expectations. Hello mga kaguro! Ako po si Teacher Don. I'm a teacher and education content creator, and welcome to the 4th episode of the Learning Mindset. Wow, nakaka-4th episode na tayo, ang saya-saya. And definitely, hindi ito ang huling episode dahil marami pa tayong pag-uusapan at marami pa tayong dapat matutunan. Kaya kung hindi ka pa naka-follow sa ating Facebook page, TikTok account, Instagram at YouTube channel, mag-subscribe ka na so that you don't miss any episode. Your support is the #1 ingredient that will make this platform grow. So please, help us grow by sharing this video to your fellow teachers sa inyong My Day or Instagram story at itag niyo po ako so that I can give you a nice shout out to my next video. For today's video ay pag-uusapan natin how to establish clear classroom rules and expectations. When is the best time to implement this? Ano-ano ba yung mga tips and strategies na pwede nating magamit or i-adapt sa mga klase natin? Let's begin!
Learning mindset.
Let us first and foremost talk about norms versus rules. Ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng norms? At ano ba ang ibig sabihin kapag sinabi nating rules? At bakit mahalaga na malaman natin itong dalawa? Mahalaga na pag-usapan muna natin ang pagkakaiba ng dalawang ito dahil marami sa atin ang medyo confused at napagpapalit-palit natin ang definition ng mga salitang ito dahil akala natin parehas lang sila. Pero hindi po. Magkaiba po talaga ang norms at rules. By definition, norms are a standard or pattern of social behavior that is typical or expected of a group. For example, dito sa Pilipinas, nakaugalian na natin ang pagmamano o ang paggamit ng po and opo bilang paggalang sa ating mga nakatatanda. Na kapag ginawa mo or sinunod mo, ay paniguradong very good ka sa mata ng mga taong nakapaligid sa iyo. At kapag hindi mo naman ginawa or sinuway mo, ay kabastusan sa mata ng nakararami. Pero, kahit hindi mo ito sundin or kahit hindi mo ito i-observe, ay wala namang serious consequence na dapat mong harapin. Except doon sa part na may mga taong maaring magalit sa'yo dahil sa tingin nila ay bastos ka. Rules naman, on the other hand, are set of explicit and understood regulations or principles governing conduct within a particular activity or sphere. Halimbawa nito ay ang mga rules sa sports na kapag na-violate mo ay may kaakibat na consequence, punishment o kaya naman ay demerit. For example, sa larong volleyball, kapag ikaw ay nagpakita ng kabastusan or inappropriate behavior towards another player or sa game officials, ay maaari kang makatanggap ng yellow card or worst, red card, and you will be escorted out of the playing court. I would like to better explain this through another example, and I'm going to use a scenario from the movie Moana. Sa mga hindi familiar, Moana is a Disney movie about an island girl who is at the same time a soon-to-be chieftain of their island. In the island, it has been a standard practice for every villagers that no one goes beyond the reef. Ang ibig sabihin nun, bawal silang lumagpas doon beyond the reef. Bawal silang maligo or mangisda beyond the reef. Because the sea beyond the reef is unforgiving. It has claimed so many lives, including her father's best friend when they were little. And because of that, the villagers decided to not use their boats anymore. And they just keep it inside a cave so that no one or nobody could go beyond the reef. Now, that's an example of a norm because not going beyond the reef is a standard practice among the villagers. At hindi naman siya krimen kung sakaling suwayin mo ito. For example, one day, someone decided to go beyond the reef. Hindi naman siya makukulong, wala namang serious consequence. Another example is from the movie Home. In that movie, there's a character named O. Si O ay isang boov, B-O-O-V. Yun ang tawag sa alien species nila. One day, si O decided to invite his friends to his housewarming party. Kaya ang ginawa niya, he sent out an invite to all of them. Yun nga lang, instead na isend niya lang doon sa friends niya, napindot niya yung send to all, including sa aliens in the entire universe. Including yung mga Gorg, yung kalaban nila. And it was dangerous kasi kapag nakarating sa mga Gorg or natanggap ng mga Gorg yung invite na yon, matutuntun sila kung saang planeta sila nagtatago. Ngayon, si O, dahil nakagawa siya ng pagkakamali, it's a crime sa kanilang society, he decided na magtago. So he became a fugitive. At dahil nagtatago siya, kinailangan ng mga boov na i-log in yung kanyang email so that they will be able to cancel the invite. Yun nga lang, laking gulat ng mga boobs nung ini-enter na nila yung password ni O sa kanyang email ay nag-error ito dahil si O ay gumamit ng ibang password. Laking gulat ngayon ng mga boobs. Namumroblema sila dahil it has been a standard practice, it's a common practice for them to use their password as password, yung salitang password mismo. Kaya si O, unique yung password niya dahil yung password niya ay hindi yung salitang password mismo. This is another example of a norm. Ang keyword dyan is standard practice or common practice. And even if hindi mo siya nasunod, ay wala namang consequence, wala namang kaparusahan, walang punishment. And that's not the case for rules. Rules is different from norms. In the movie Home, ang bawat citizen ng mga boob ay they're only allowed to commit 9 mistakes in their entire lifetime. 9 mistakes and you're out. That's what happened to O. Yung pagkakamali niya na ma-send to all niya yung evite was his last mistake, and then the consequence is it's either he's going to be exiled or executed. That's an example of a rule. Rules are regulations na kapag hindi mo nasunod or kaya naman ay sinuway mo or na-violate mo, ay meron talagang serious consequence or kaparusahan. Hindi tulad ng norms na kapag nasuway mo or hindi mo nasunod ay wala namang serious consequence at wala namang kaparusahan. Naalala ko dati nung elementary ako, ang dami-dami kong tantos sa blackboard dahil suking-suki talaga ako pagdating sa kadaldalan. Bawat tantos nun, ang equivalent nun ay piso. So let's say for example, meron kang 10 tantos, so 10 pesos yon. At babayaran namin yon by the end of the week or at the end of the week. Kaya every Friday noon, bago mag-dismissal, lahat ng mga may tantos sa blackboard ay pumipila at kailangan magbayad sa class advisor namin. Dahil kung hindi kami makabayad, wala kaming pambili ng floor wax. O kaya naman, pag hindi ka nakabayad, ay hindi ka mapipirmahan pagdating ng pirmahan ng mga clearance. So that was the unpleasant consequence kapag ikaw ay nasa noisy list. And because of that, in the long run, nag-develop ako ng complacent na pananaw pagdating sa mga rules and regulations because I thought lahat ng rules, there's always a way to get away. Tulad nung pagiging nasa noisy list, lagi-lagi naman ako nasa noisy list at lagi-lagi rin naman ako nagbabayad. Pero never ever kong natutunan na tumahimik. Kasi in my mind, babayaran ko naman yan by the end of the week. Okay lang na nasa noisy list, at least may pambili kami ng floor wax. The value of what it means to keep quiet in the classroom ay never ko naman talaga siyang natutunan. Kahit na paulit-ulit kong dinadanas yung consequence of being in the noisy list. So, sa mga classrooms, a shift of focus is really necessary. Kung dati, ang akala natin, rules and regulations are the most effective way to manage and regulate our students' behavior because they'd be afraid of the consequences. Ngayon, I think norms are also one of the best methods because it helps us manage behavioral expectations. And of course, most importantly, in building student collective efficacy because norms put our students at the center of the equation. And norms are their ways to foster communal relation in the classroom. Let's take a look at what difference does it make to shift our focus from rules to norms. In this example, you will notice that the rules, although correct and necessary siya, it doesn't sound positive. It sounds threatening and very disciplinarian. Unlike with norms, it sounds positive because it is constructed in a positive way, and it has the spirit of collectivity or community. Therefore, it's non-threatening, and actually it promotes and enhances students' interaction. And student interaction is super important in the classroom because this is a way for our students to make meaningful connections with each other. According to a study published by the University of Massachusetts Global, it has found out that Gen Z students experience higher rates of anxiety and depression. And the major contributing factor to that is academic pressure, high rates of perfectionism, and lack of adequate sleep. That's why it is very important that as teachers, we create and provide a positive learning space for them. A space that understands, a space that is non-judgmental, and a space with high spirit of community where everyone can feel supported and form meaningful connections. Pero sino ba dapat ang gumawa ng norms? Is it the school administrators? Is it the teachers? No, it's the whole class. And the best time to do this is during the beginning of the school year. Pwedeng during the first week, second week, or even in the first month of the school year. Importante ito because the early days of the school year are supposed to be the days where you lay down the foundation of the kind of classroom that you want to build on the succeeding days. And it's important that your students understand that as well. Ito ang pwede mong gawin. At the early days of the school year, magkaroon ka lang ng isang meeting where you will do norm setting with your students. Here's how to facilitate it. Number 1 is, start by inviting your students to envision a goal for their class, specifically on their behavior and relationship. You may ask a question that says, if you have the power to transform this class into a community, how would you like your class to relate to one another? That's just an example of a driving question. Pwede kayong gumawa ng sarili ninyong version. You know your students better than me. Of course, you can come up with a creative and simple question. You may use sentence starters to facilitate it and so that it's also more guided. Sentence starters are really helpful for students who have difficulty constructing a sentence. Kung hindi kaya ng individual, pwede namang by pair o kaya naman by small groups para hindi gaanong mahirap sa mga bata magbuo ng sentence gamit ang sentence starters or sentence prompts. Number 2, hold a collaborative sticky note activity. From the driving question, invite your students to write their answers on a post-it note. Ask them to discuss this with their group. Again, hindi kailangang individual, pwede itong by pair or by group. Yung sagot nila sa sentence starters, yun yung isusulat nila sa post-it note nila. Kung walang post-it note, pwede naman kahit anong klaseng papel. Ang kagandahan lang kasi ng post-it note ay pwede mo siyang ilipat-lipat, especially if you're trying to organize it into categories. Pero kung wala talagang post-it note, okay lang. For sure, may maiisip ka better alternative. Then, after your students have written their answers, invite them to post it on the wall or on the blackboard where everybody could see it. Number 3, categorize responses based on recurring themes. So, yung mga post-it notes ay nakapost na ngayon sa blackboard. So, ang gagawin mo next is you will categorize it and you have to ask the help of your students. Mas okay kung ikaw talaga ang mag-lead sa kanila, especially if your students are not yet fully self-directed. Simple lang ang gagawin. Pagsasama-samahin nyo lang yung mga responses na magkakaparehas or similar ang tema. Halimbawa, merong mga post-it notes na tungkol sa friendliness. So, lahat ng mga post-it notes na may kinalaman sa friendliness, pagsama-samahin and put it in one column. And then, let's say merong post-it note na may kinalaman sa respect. So, lahat ng mga post-it notes na may kinalaman sa respect ay pagsama-samahin and organize it into one column. Do the same to the rest of the post-it notes hanggang sa lahat ng mga responses ay nakakategorize na into different themes. And from these themes and from these categories, yan yung magiging norms ninyo sa klase. Now, we have to realize that this is an important stage. Everyone in the classroom are expected to participate. Number 4, create a classroom visual. Dahil meron na kayong norms na na-finalize, the next step is presenting it to class in a more visual way. Because you will be presenting a concept, so therefore, mas okay na merong visual element. If you think about it, not everyone can be a full-fledged auditory learner, but everyone can be a visual learner. You may choose to present your norms through an infographic, a chart, or a poster. Sa panahon natin ngayon, madali na itong gawin dahil meron na tayong mga available na templated na platforms o kaya naman applications. That helps us do graphic design by ourselves. And once meron ka ng infographic or poster, you're now ready for the next step, which is creating a contract. This is the last step at mahalaga ito dahil it will allow everyone enter into a contract which will give them the power and privilege to preserve the integrity of the norms that they have created. Pwede kang gumawa ng verbal pledge for your students and have them recite the expectations and acknowledge that they will follow and uphold them. Kumbaga, oath-taking siya. Pwede mo rin silang papirmahin afterwards. Meron pang ibang mga creative ideas out there. Yung iba, instead of signature, thumb mark yung ginagamit nila. Yung iba naman, a combination of thumb mark tapos may signature sa gitna. For sure, marami kang maiisip na creative and fun way of creating a contract with your students. And of course, tandaan na hindi nagtatapos ang norms sa pag-sign ng contract. Importante that you revisit the norms periodically. For example, every after lesson, pwede mong ipa-identify sa mga bata kung anong norm or kung aling norm ang na-observe nila sa araw na yon. You may say, what norms do you think your classmates were able to exemplify in class today? And you have to do this more often so that your norms are not forgotten. So, bakit mahalaga ang norms? Paano ba ito nakatutulong sa pag-create ng positive learning environment sa klase natin? Here are 4 important reasons. Number 1, norms foster commitment to the learning environment. By allowing our students to create the norms, we are not only reminding them of their role in securing and maintaining orderliness in the classroom, but most importantly, we are making them accountable of their own commitment to one another as a learning community. That every action they do affects their community. Students will most likely keep something that they themselves have created. Naalala ko nung grade 6 ako, kami yung section na may pinakamalinis na classroom. Pulang-pula at makintab yung floor namin. Tapos yung basurahan namin sa labas, lata ng mantika na dinamitan ng tela. And we were able to keep it that way the entire school year dahil ginusto naman talaga namin yon. Kaya lahat kami ay talagang ginagawa talaga namin kung ano yung toka na ibinibigay sa amin. Dahil alam namin na kahit ba't iba yung ginagawa namin, alam namin na iisa yung gusto namin. Kami mismo ang nagagalit kapag meron kaming klase na nagkakalat. And that's how I understand what commitment really is. I was able to use that experience as a reference to my other commitments, kahit sa mga gawaing bahay. Kaya in our classroom, our students will stay committed to respecting and upholding the norms that they themselves have created. And commitment is something that our students can apply not only in the classroom, but also in any aspect of their life. And that's how norms foster commitment in the learning environment. Number 2, norms foster care among learners. Norms are a great way for teachers to remind their students about their capability to empathize with their fellow learners because they keep in mind that they affect one another in any aspect, socially and emotionally. And when every learner takes care of each other, they create that safe space where everyone can express their needs without judgment and feel supported. This eventually builds a culture of care in the long run. Kaya importante that our norms in the classroom are stated in a positive statement. Halimbawa, instead of saying, "Do not interrupt when others are talking," state it in a positive way. So you may say, "We will talk when it's our turn to speak." Another example is, instead of saying, "Respect others and their property," you may say, "We will help each other take care of our belongings." Changing the way that we state our norms can have a huge difference and impact to the kind of environment that we want to create and foster. And by stating the norms in a positive statement, it helps foster care to our students. Number 3, norms create a learning community. By periodically revisiting the stated norms and constantly reminding students about it can help develop a great sense of community in the classroom. This allows students to realize that they are not just classmates, but are individuals who positively impact each other in support of their growth as a learning individual. Kaya importante that our norms in the classroom are periodically revisited. At saka dapat intentional yung pag-integrate mo ng norms sa learning activities mo. And there are 2 ways you can do this. First is prior to the learning activity. Halimbawa, magpapagroup activity ka. Before mo ibigay yung instructions for the group activity, unahin mo munang i-bring up yung norms na ina-expect mo na i-observe ng mga bata. For example, you may say, "In this group activity, I expect you to observe the following norms." So that's what you can do prior to the learning activity. The second way is after the learning activity. For example, nagpa-group activity ka tapos merong group presentation. So after everybody has presented their output, bring up the norms. You may say, "So let us reflect on our experience in the group activity. I'd like you to think of the norms that your classmates were able to observe and exemplify during the activity." By doing this, we are not only making our students realize that they are capable of keeping the norms, but most importantly, they are capable of supporting the learning process of their classmates. And support in the learning process is an important element of a learning community. And number 4, norms foster collective efficacy. Collective efficacy means that because the students created the norms themselves, this makes them feel acknowledged during the process because they took part in creating something significant, that their decision matters in the classroom community, and therefore it enhances their self-belief that together, they can achieve their goals for the class. Ito rin yung tinatawag nating inclusivity, that everyone in the class has something to offer, that everyone's voice and decision matters, and that the success of every decision relies on each and everyone and not just to the chosen few. Hindi lang sa class officers, hindi lang sa teachers, kundi lahat. This breaks the mindset na dahil mas matalino sila kesa sa akin, or dahil hindi naman ako matalino, hindi naman ako magaling sa klase, kaya sila na lang. Sila na lang gumawa ng desisyon, susunod na lang kami. Kapag ganito ang nangyari, students will lose their sense of self-belief. And when that happens, they will apply the same mindset to the many aspects of their life. And that's really, really sad. Halimbawa niyan are our adults of today. Tuwing sasapit ang eleksyon, yung iboboto na lang nila is kung sino yung iboboto ng mga tao sa paligid nila. Wala silang sariling desisyon or paninindigan. And that's probably because itong mga taong to, they have never been given the opportunity to take part in a collective efficacy. Baka noong kabataan nila, they've always been a member, but they have never really taken part in the decision-making process. Ayaw natin na ganun din ang sapitin ng mga students natin pagtanda nila. Kaya habang nasa classroom pa sila, take advantage of the opportunities to put them in a group and take part in every aspect of decision making, creative working, presenting, and many other ways that bring about collective efficacy. And norms is one of the best methods for this. From brainstorming, creating, deciding, implementing, and reinforcing, these are all instances or aspects that norms foster collective efficacy. Tayo bilang mga teachers have to understand that learning environment matters greatly to the growth and development of our students. We are in a stage where whether we are honing the best years of their brain development or we are actually rewiring them. And none of these are easy. So we need to create a learning environment that is positive, creative, fun, productive, inclusive, and non-judgmental. And that's why norms have to be in place to help us communicate our expectations to our students in terms of their behavior and relationship to one another inside our classroom. Building a positive learning environment is important because a positive and purposeful learning environment can boost enjoyment and engagement in the classroom. And when enjoyment and engagement is high, it also improves academic performance of our students. And as teachers, that's what we want. Kaya, we as a school community, let us ensure that we are providing our students with the best possible learning environment. At bago tayo magtapos, gusto ko lang bigyan ng special shoutout ang mga taong walang sawang tumatangkilik at sumusuporta, lalong-lalo na kay Ma'am Normel Claros, Ma'am Chinky Bon, Ma'am Shelo Dagal, kay Ma'am Alma, Ma'am Jelay Lumanog, kay Sir Rio Book, Ma'am Honey Besing, and Ma'am Annalyn Ampolocchio. Kung gusto nyo rin ng shoutout, mag-comment lamang po kayo sa ating Facebook page, sa Instagram, sa TikTok, o kaya naman sa ating YouTube channel. O kaya naman ay i-message ninyo ako at malay ninyo, kayo na ang susunod kong isa-shoutout sa next video. So, that's what I got for you for today's video. Magkita-kita po tayong muli sa susunod na episode. And once again, ako po si Teacher Don na nagsasabing, the best way to learn is by having a learning mindset.
Learning Mindset.